Welcome, 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 welcome. I am Rumbling Thunder, and I am the producer, director, and creator of the documentary miniseries 25 to Lifestyle Sentenced to Thrive, which is a documentary miniseries for melanated men to have a safe space to be able to tell their stories and how they define themselves as a success, and also how they have achieved that success by defying the status quo. So we're going to go over a lot of stuff today. This is going to be the first, official talking head video that I'm doing for YouTube. I had to practice a little bit. Mainly, I had to get used to talking to myself. I'm still not really comfortable on where to look, but we'll work that out. So today I want to talk about the inception of this project, what led me to want to create it, and I'm also going to lay out some examples of why it's needed. All right, so first, 2018. Pretty sure everyone remembers. There's a lot of Me Too movement stuff happening in the media. And I was working in Atlanta on a few television shows and a movie. And I had moved up to Atlanta from Florida. And I'll be honest, I have a cousin. She had a dance studio. She's a professional dancer, commercials, music videos, stuff like that, right? And so, of course, in her studio, there's plenty of women, right? So I would, be there taking pictures, some video, some, little media, short media stuff. And, she would have little events. And it was quickly easy for me to see, being in Atlanta and it being so many melanated people, that there was a disconnect. Definitely a disconnect between the men and the women. But overall, just a disconnect. Like, people weren't moving on the same page. And I started to think about, putting together an event. And what would that event look like? And what would be the purpose of it? Salaki. So I wanted to do something that had some social impact. And mainly because my cousin is very heavy influencer, and I seen an opportunity for that network of people to be able to propagate a positive message, potentially. So the idea that I came up with for a event was entitled I, a Muse Myself. I, a Muse Myself. And I really, it was a aim to speak to melanated people from the perspective of psychology and how past traumas and dealings affected us as a community and prevented us from having healthy relationships. I'm kind of paraphrasing, just giving a general synopsis of what it was about. Maybe I'll put a flyer in here just so I can show you a picture. And as soon as I started to, network and try to make this a viable event, I ran into a gentleman, and fuck it, like I don't even care, like sweat off my back to drop no name. I ain't gonna drop his name, but I will say that he did work for or with Killer Mike's barbershop, the swag shop, I believe it's called, in Atlanta. And I was introduced to this gentleman that works there by a mutual friend that we had. And it was around the same time that I was coming up with this concept, right? And so I pitched it to him for the sole purpose of sponsorship. And I'll say about a week later, maybe less, he hits me up, invited me to come take pictures at an event he's having. I said, all right, cool. So I show up. This fucker, he did like the most watered down version of the concept that I had pitched to him. Like, it wasn't even organized. He didn't even have a real title. He was just like, oh yeah, we're just gonna have a party where people can come in and talk about their problems. Like, that was his pitch to, like, people were coming into to the swag shop and asking, oh, well, what's going on? Like, kind of like, why are we here? And that was his answer. Oh yeah, we just kind of want to start to do a little thing where we can bring people together in a space where they can talk about their problems. Like, trying to regurgitate what I had pitched to him, but just doing a horrible job at it, right? So I didn't get discouraged. I took some pictures and I made a video and I put my logo on it and I sent it to him. Surprise, surprise. He didn't post it. So a couple weeks later, I attempted to do like a pilot episode of this concept, because that's what the main objective of the event that I was putting together was, to capture it so that it could be used and widespread. Very few people showed up, like literally probably like 7 or 8 people. And there was some interesting dialogue, but more so it was a very poignant learning lesson for me. And it just showed me how unready we were as a community to talk about mental health. Right? Now, mind you, I'll say like probably about a month that I spent, not a lot of time at all, month, like just throwing out fillers and trying to put this thing together and getting nowhere fast. And one of the things that I was doing was just contacting my circle and my network and, pitching them the idea and, asking them if they wanted to help produce it. And most of the time I just got ignored, like no response. There's a couple scoffs, like, yeah, your crazy ass do need some mental health. And like, that's kind of what was the eye-opening learning lesson to me, was just how unwilling our community was to accept the fact that on some levels we all suffer from oppression that in some way, shape, or form manifests itself in some type of mental illness. It's impossible to say that you are not afflicted by this if you live in the US of A. Or shit, even in fucking Canada. But anyway. So here's where the plot thickens, right? Couple months passed. And I am working on the television show Raising Dion. And all of a sudden, I start seeing on Facebook and Instagram these very polished advertisements or posts publicly calling for the need to shed some light on the mental health issue that melanated people face. I'm used to this kind of stuff, though. So again, I didn't really let it bother me too much. But what I did is formulated a little strategy. Since I'm no stranger from getting things and ideas stolen from me on a mass level, and I got receipts for it, we can talk about all that, and we will, as you get to know me. I decided, all right, I really wasn't that bent out of shape because at the end of the day, it's going to benefit us, right? So the fact that the powers that be decided to commercialize this, I thought, no harm, no foul. So fast forward a year, and this is where all the diversity hoopla is going on. This is when I seen that, oh, okay, yeah, they definitely intended to misuse this. But anyway, we'll go back to where we were in this timeline, okay? So I'm working on Raising Dion. I'm seeing all these posts about, black mental health, and, influencers are now jumping on it. And so I decided to be a little strategic. Say, hey, you know what? I'm going to make a documentary project that supports solely melanated men. And one of the main reasons why I decided to choose that angle was because of the Me Too movement. Just understanding that when you're talking about the patriarchy, and especially when you're talking about feminists talking about the patriarchy, like melanated men, we don't fit the bill. Like not even remotely. Not even a little, like it's a joke, right? And was also seeing that the things that I was dealing with in the film industry, because that's the Me Too movement was spawned out of the film industry, right? And I don't know, it was just very easy for me to see how people like me were deliberately just being marginalized and ignored. I got gripes. You think it's easy for a melanated man in the movie business? Not even close. In fact, we are the most underrepresented group in the film industry. You can look it up, fact check me, I don't care, whatever. If I'm wrong, post it in the comments. If I am wrong, it's not by much. So I decided to launch this documentary project as a kind of safe space and platform so that potentially individuals like me could come on and tell their stories, their perspectives, their experiences of what it takes for them to thrive, not just survive. And so being that, this other idea had just got jacked, I was a lot more strategic in how I presented it to the public. And I'm not really going to divulge too much on what I did to protect myself right now, because there's things developing in real time since I've publicly launched this 3 months ago on the chip-in.co crowdfunding platform. All right. And the reason why I mention that is because this is where we're going to really dig into some things. So I created a treatment for this documentary, and I sent it to a couple people. Also sent it to the griot. No response. Then I just started softly talking about it. And this is around, I would say, September, October of 2019. Like at the height of madness, campaigns and all that, right? And November 2019, I was invited I had a colleague that I work with, and she told me about another girl that, she had worked with, and she introduced me. And this young lady encouraged me to join this organization, this film organization that was for the department that I worked in, which was the locations department. And she was like, yeah, it's a cool organization, and there's definitely not a lot of us, so we need more of us in there. So I had moved to Canada. I had a son. And when I was in Canada, I was in the process of putting together a work visa package. And I don't know if you know about these things, but they could be pretty intricate and time consuming. And so around this time, when this was presented to me, I thought that it might be a good viable option for me to expand my network professionally and possibly be an avenue to where I can make some great connections and possibly get a work sponsorship or a visa or a sponsored visa, work visa. So contacted some people, got some reference letters, and I submitted my reference letters and application to this organization, which is called LMGI, Locations Managers Guild International. I submitted it in January. I was excited, I'm not gonna lie. It's a global organization. And I had got some really heartwarming references, honestly, that allowed me to even, look at myself differently, because, it's different when your peers talk about you, especially when it's peers that are, higher up on the rung and have more experience than you. So I was excited to see what was going to come of it, right? So February passed, March passed, got no answer. So a follow-up email, beginning of March. Hey, what's going on? The process still being decided upon. Oh yeah, we'll get back to you. We're still doing the thing, right? So then you already know what happened after that. January or March 20. Everything that kicked off after that, right? So, of course, everything shifted, slowed down, and changed. June, so much shit was going on. I'm not gonna say I forgot about it, but it wasn't high on my priority list, right? But then I got an email in August, end of August, saying, all right, you've been approved. All you got to do is pay your membership fee. So I paid my membership fee. And in September, I was officially a member of the LMGI. And my first engagement with the organization was a Zoom meeting, town hall style, about diversity and inclusion in the workplace. Whew. Hot topic, bro. They had a whole PhD moderating the session. It was pretty intense, I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot of good information shared. Overall, it was a positive experience. During this town hall, I was in the chat section, right? And they were talking about certain things. And in the chat, I just made a comment saying that, ideally, it was cool to ask people to talk about these things. And this was a safe space. But in reality, when an individual, person of color, has a gripe or a complaint, especially in the film industry, like you might not be asked to come back, or at the very least, like you're gonna be targeted, made an example of, given a hard time, whatever, right? And it just is what it is, right? That's unfortunately. So I made this comment, and a couple minutes later, I got a private direct message asking for my phone number and a chance to have a discussion about some of the things that I had said. And the person who reached out to me was a melanated female, really, really high up in the organization and in the industry. Huge films, huge projects. So I was like, all right, cool. So we connected a couple days later. And she goes on to tell me the same thing that the other young lady who invited me to the organization said. Hey, there's not a lot of us in here. And she went on to say that because of that town hall, or I'm not sure if it was because of, but it might have been like, at the same time when they thought of the idea of the town hall, they thought of putting together a diversity, equity, and inclusion group or committee. And she thought it would be an excellent idea if I joined this committee so that we can have some representation. And I was humbled. Like I said, I'd been in this organization a whole 2 weeks now. So of course I want to join this committee. Of course I want to lend my voice as a melanated man to a diverse group of people so that we could plausibly come up with some ideas and solutions to tackle this issue of marginalization and lack of representation. Okay? So the next diversity, equity, and inclusion meeting was set for, I think, 3 weeks later. It's like October 9th or something like that. No, yeah, it was October 9th, I remember, because it was my homie's birthday. So, I would say in the first 10 seconds of me joining the Zoom call, all I could think about was my documentary project. Because how Zoom is laid out, in the little squared boxes where you can see everybody's face, just a demographic of who was being represented. It looked like the status quo. And I was not the only melanated man there. There was a Hispanic gentleman, and there was another melanated individual, man, who identifies with the LGBTQ community. It was two white guys, one melanated lady, who was not the female who invited me, ironically. She did not show up to this particular session. And the rest of the, 15, 16, 17 people were Caucasian women. So you can do the math on that. So 10 seconds, all I seen was irony, because this was not diverse at all. And for the next 45 minutes, I just sat kind of like as a fly on the wall as a new guy, just listening to Victim Olympics. And this is how it looked. The Hispanic gentleman was talking about a mentorship program that he was, trying to help put together for the organization, so that there could be potentially a pathway to job opportunities for melanated men and women, and just people of color in general. But you could definitely tell that, he was, because he was a man, he was more leaning towards helping people who look like him. That's just human nature, right? And so the Victim Olympics looked like, of course, all the Caucasian ladies talking about being sexually harassed and how, being sexually harassed is equally egregious as racism. And I'm not saying that it is or it isn't. It's just not a competition. So there was that. There was the mentorship. There was the sexual harassment. And then there was just an overall call for a need to train people so that they could obtain leadership and management roles. So I'm pretty tech savvy. I run my own multimedia business as an entrepreneur. So this is when I decided to raise my hand. And I said, hey, I've been listening to all you guys, and I've heard everyone's plight, if you will. To me, it was more like agenda. I didn't want to say that. And I have a solution that I think could satisfy everyone. So they said, oh, do tell. So I started to talk about building a gamification platform that you could use to train people, not only in the industry, but use it as a gauge so that people could reach benchmarks that would certify them to be able to come and work professionally. So, of course, I got some pushback from the old dogs. Oh yeah, we don't do it this way and we don't do it that way and whatever, right? So I had to ask, okay, well, do you know what gamification is? Crickets. Of course they didn't, right? Just playing devil's advocate. So once I started to expound a little bit more on what it is and what it could do, and then when I dropped this magical nugget that you can get, this will be a good vehicle to entice sponsors to be a part of. At the time, the current co-chair said, oh, this sounds like something Netflix would want to get behind. I said, oh, really? I didn't say that out loud. And then she went on to like kind of reiterate everything that I just said, like it was her own idea. But it has to be fun and, educational, like just literally repeating everything I just said as if it was her own idea. I'm pretty sure you all who have the ears to hear have experienced some things like that. So much so, there probably should be a documentary or a platform created so that we could talk about these things. But I digress. So after it was decided upon that what I indeed said was a viable and potentially great idea, I was then tasked to put something together. Can you put together a demo for us so that we could kind of just, see how it works? Sure I can. Of course I can. I'm going to tell you what I knew at the time, just from doing my own research. It cost 20 G's to even pretend to be serious, to even get a gamification, anything started. Just thought of it. All right? So I put it together. Put together a gamification video that I hosted on my laptop and I demoed for them on a Zoom call. I structured out everything into 3 lessons or 3 categories and had volumes of potentially what the subject matter could be in each of those said categories based off of, the conversation. I wasn't making it up off the top of my head. I was just, laying out things how I had interpreted them. So I contacted a third party, got them involved, someone who did some programming, some coding, some networking. I contacted a PhD in psychology to help write the courseware. And I had all of this in my little package in my demo, ready to go. Now, during this little pitch meeting, the OG lady who invited me to the diversity club was in attendance. And it was very, very easy to see, like instantaneous, the energy was different when she was there. She unapologetically took up space with her voice, left very little room for opinions other than her own, kind of almost dictating how things were going to go. So much so that as I was patiently waiting to present, and we were 40 minutes in, and I'm like, well, hey, I put together this thing. Am I going to get a chance to show it to you? She was like, well, why are we even looking at this? And, what is this about? And I don't know anything about this. And it was a little off-putting because the last time I had spoke to her was when she was inviting me to this fucking shit, right? So anyway, I showed him the thing, and instant marginalization. Instant. Like, oh, well, yeah, this could be a thing, but we don't know. I know you don't fucking know. That's what I'm showing you. But anyway, we don't know. Really, it was code for, I don't know how to take control of this so I can take credit for it. That's really what that's code for. And we'll get to that later. And, just throwing shade and just being super discouraging. And now by this time, the co-chair who had made the Netflix comment, Caucasian lady, had resigned. And the sole chair of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee was the gay black guy. Unapologetically, you tear me apart if you think that I'm being negative by labeling him that, but I'm telling you what he told me. He said he was gay, not me. I didn't know until he told me. I mean, I probably had some. Anyway. So he says, okay, well, we're going to table all of this until the beginning of next year because, we're going into the holiday season. And in January, we're going to revisit all of these things and see where we go from here. Mind you, there was plenty of other fuck shit going on that I was dealing with in this organization in a short time too. Like like I said, just the dismissiveness. Even though everything was online, it felt like I was on set. I could tell that this is how these people were used to operating with individuals like me, so much so that it was just second nature to be dismissive. Easy for me to see, right? Mainly because in my experiences in the location and film industry in Atlanta, it was all as an assistant role. So January comes around and the chair, his name is Miguel, sends out an email outlining or giving an outline of the minutes that were going to be taking place in the next committee meeting. Very organized, right? Instantaneously, red flag. I seen the verbiage was, okay, well, this is what I'm going to want to talk about during the meeting and how I think things should go from here on out. I'll give you a guess what he said. Don't think too hard. You already know. Laid out just like I had presented, almost exact. Mentorship, inclusion, training, all that. Laid out. Just how I had presented it. So the meeting comes along. And he's in full filibuster mode. Like, surprised he didn't turn blue in the face because he didn't even take any gasp of air to even remotely allow for a break for someone else to interject. Mainly, that someone being me. Why do you think that is? So he goes on to lay out his plan. And at the end of it all, he says, does anyone have any questions? Like after he talked for like 20, 30 minutes. I do. Try not to call on me. So I reiterated the fact that everything he had laid out was just as I had displayed in my demo, and I inquired, is the gamification and training module route something that the organization was still interested in? To which they told me to, like, yes, but just not right now. So if you could write out a plan of how you think that it would look over, the next 9 months and a year on how, we would roll this out, which is super fair, right? So I did it in like 2 days, and I posted it in the Slack group. And the following week, we had a subcommittee meeting, and I presented my roadmap. It was a visual infographic, way above and beyond what was called for. Again, instantaneously, I got pushback, while at the same time, the plan as I'm presenting it, or as I had presented it, being reiterated as someone else's thought child. So something else interesting happened during this same meeting. At the end of it, good old Miguel said, all right, well, this is a lot of work, and since the other co-chair stepped down, I'm looking to see who else potentially would me before he could even finish. So in January, I became the co-chair of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Group. Moo-hoo, ha-ha, ha-ha-ha-ha-ha. So here's where things get interesting. Like really interesting. I participated in like one, kind of higher up type meeting. It was very insightful. I could easily see how, there was definitely like an old guard kind of keeping things the way they were or the way they always have been. And it was definitely a little off-putting. It was just like, just a representation of being on set, like no different, because you're dealing with the same type of people, and they have no reason to operate differently, like zero. So now we're at the end of January, and we're talking about all of these things that are surrounding this training. And then somebody says, oh, that's somebody being me. Maybe we should do something for Black History Month. And they said, oh yeah, that's a good idea. What should we do? So I said, we could, easily do a black history film campaign where we can issue out a fact every day of the month. They said, oh, that's a great idea. And I paused and I thought what I was, right, no cap. I paused and I really, really thought about saying what I was about to say. Like I really thought about whether or not I should say it. I took a deep breath and I said, all right, well, I'll fall on my sword on this one and I will volunteer myself to create video bumpers so that we'll have more dynamic content for people to engage with. One of the OGs, the OG lady who invited me was like, what's a video bumper? So I made one in a couple hours and I sent it to him after the meeting. Just a little 15-second video, moving images, text, music in the form of a fact. They said, "Oh, this is fabulous. This is what we got to do. Can you do more of these?" I said, "Sure. All I need is for you guys to give me a list of the facts and the people that you want to highlight, and then I can go out, search the images, and put together the content." Sounded like a good idea at the time. This was on a Sunday, I believe. So Tuesday comes around and we have like a little, I don't even know what to call it. They called me. They called me so I could sit on the phone and listen to them come up with these facts, which I ain't have no problem with. So we had a list. So I started working on it. And this was a couple days, I think it was a week. It was a week before the 1st of February. And I think the 1st was like on a Monday. So I had like 2 or 3 days to put together the first week of content. Not a big deal. So I put together some stuff and I send it. Say, hey, this is kind of what I got right now. This is the direction I'm going. If anybody got any feedback, let me know. I got 0 response. So I just sent the content to the person who was doing the media coordination, the posting of the social media accounts. They're doing the social media management aspect of it. It was a whole separate company, like somebody they paid to do, they paid somebody to do this. And my job was just to give them the content. So this person posted the content. First day. No problems. Second day. No problems. Third day. Skirt. So one of the facts was about the, I forgot the name of it. The Princess and the Frog. Is that what it's called? The Disney movie with the melanated sister as the princess. I don't know. I'm not a 13-year-old girl, so I don't know. There's so many layers of just fucked up shit to this. So in the midst of me creating this content, and them giving me, this one fact. I'm looking through stock photos and, images, and I'm trying to find an image of a black princess that looks like this character. Not too many that exist, but I found one. Same color outfit, tiara, whole nine, right? This shit is so sad what I'm about to tell y'all. Whew. So the social media person posted the video. My phone started blowing up. Only the black people, I'm not going to call them melanated because they black as fuck. Only the black people in the organization had an issue with the post. You know why? Because they didn't like the way that the lady looked that I chose. It was a real life model. They said shit like, looked like she just came from the club. Mind you, this was a professional model who got paid. And their image ended up in Adobe stock. So obviously somebody thought that she looked good enough to pay. And creatively, the reason why I chose it was because I didn't have any authority or authorization from anybody to use any type of Disney imagery. And I wasn't about to make that call on my own. And since I didn't get any response when I asked for feedback, I just said, all right, fuck it, let's see what happens. I didn't think there was going to be like so much strong pushback. But, it was very quickly apparent to me that it was less about the creative choice and more about the fact of who was making the choices. Yeah, when I tell you what happened was like the epitome of crabs in a bucket. Like they came for me hard. Like saying shit like, oh, well, we just need to make sure that we're putting out something that we all could be proud of. The original girl who invited me into the organization, telling me things like, man, I've been in this organization for, quite a while. And, I've been trying to build myself up and get my, clout with some of my own little pet projects, kind of like saying that I was too new to get credit for anything. That they had been trying to do stuff to get credit as well. And just to give you a little context, this whole organization is developed because the, Emmys and the Oscars, they don't recognize this department for the work that they do. So they created their own organization so that they could have their own award shows, so that they could, wax each other's booty. That's the whole, like, this is what was told to me. Like this, they told me this is why they made it up. These are not my words. I'm just reiterating to you what it is. And just to further expound on that kind of mentality and where it comes from, just think about the next time you watch a TV show and a movie, and at the end, the credits roll. People get paid for that shit. You can't show a movie or a television show on anything and not roll the credits at the end. It's part of the show. It's part of the project. So I'm just telling you this to kind of give you a picture of the mentality of the people that I'm dealing with. So, like I said, when I said they ganged up on me, like, shit was crazy. And it was not a white person involved. All of the black people got together and collectively decided to not let me run with the ball, to take it out of my hands. Not only to take it out of my hands, but to give it to a colleague or friend of Miguel. Not only to give it to the colleague and friend of Miguel, but to go as far as to ask me for templates to use so they could recreate my design. You know why? All because of this Princess Frog Black Lady stock image. So the sole reason, that's the only reason why they came for me. So to me, that just lets me know that couldn't have been it, right? It's got to be more than that. Somewhere in here. I'm not a psychologist, so I can only guess. We could talk about it, maybe in another video on why black people feel a need to tear each other down and be the HNIC at all costs. Like, on some Highlander shit, there can only be one. Shit's fucking crazy. But anyway, so I voiced my displeasure. Like, I'm talking about leaving me off of email chains deliberately. Now, mind you, I'm the co-chair of the organization. I came up with the idea for the campaign. I created the style of the content. And then I produced the content and delivered it. So I was pissed. I ain't gonna lie. Mainly so just because of the disrespect and how they felt like they could talk to me. Like they thought they was on set, and like I guess I was working under them or something, because that's what they used to. And that's what was like so appalling to me, was that it was easy for me to see just why the film industry is not diverse. It's because of gatekeepers who need to be the HNIC. And before all of this happened, like literally a couple days, we had a meeting. And Mr. Miguel was, for some reason, on his high horse and wanted to tell everyone that someone had brought to his attention that he was the only black male locations manager in LA. He was proud of that. And after all this shit happened, the only thing I could think of was, yeah, nigga, I can see why. Like, yeah, you sitting here being two-faced, making sure that don't nobody compete with your ass. Yeah, when I tell you there's so many layers, like, of fucked up shit that I experienced doing this, like, I've been talking for an hour, and I'm just, glazing over the top, the timeline. I'm not really going into the intricate details of all the conversations and what exactly was said to me. But pretty much it sounded like stay in your place. Boy. And there was no one my age who had a mirrored experience that I could say, hey, man, you see this shit? Like, nah. And to me, there's no irony in it at all that all of this was happening at the same time when I was putting in the work to launch this documentary project, because it is the quintessential reason why this project is needed. And like I said, when I created this concept, one of the driving factors was to have a vehicle of our own that was akin to the Me Too movement. And I am entitling mine Me First. Like, what is it gonna do? What is it gonna take to put me first? Melanated man. Do I really matter? Because as soon as you start saying Black Lives Matter, and then especially if it's a heterosexual melanated man, as soon as they stand up to voice their gripes and complaints, you know, there's always a super feminist chick to come and just sweep the legs from under what was said by talking about sexism and sexual harassment. Tell me I'm lying. So I was like, fuck that. We need our own shit. And so this is what I'm doing. Just me. Called on a couple people. I've gotten, you know, I'm not gonna say I haven't had any help. But it takes a while to make a film, especially one of quality. And it takes a collective effort. Like there's not a project that you're gonna really. I'm not gonna say like there's none. Very few and far between are you gonna see a project that has like some girth to it, where one person put together. Like I really would go as far as to say it's fucking next to impossible. It's just not designed like that. Like a TV show got anywhere from 60 to 150 crew members, depending on, you know, what the type of show it is. A TV commercial could have anywhere from 5 to 50 people on it, depending on the size of the commercial. Like it's not something that you do by yourself. It's just not. And this is definitely one of the reasons why you don't see more melanated men in positions of power in the film industry. And I talked about this earlier on an IG Live, where when I went to film school, it became quickly apparent to me why Spike Lee, you know, didn't hold the same, or wasn't viewed as at the same level as like Spielberg or Scorsese. And one of those main reasons is that by design in our society, people are not comfortable taking direction from melanated men, especially heterosexual melanated men. And I'm gonna keep throwing that in there, whether it makes you uncomfortable or not, or whether you try to attack me for that, because that's how I came here. I got a son. I want my son to carry on my lineage. Like, and I don't think that's fucking crazy. Not only do I not think it's crazy or insane or homophobic, I think it's natural. So I wanted to give the general public a chance to be outraged at what they did to me. Are you outraged? Or do I not matter? Does my mental health not matter? Does being involved in a toxic work environment only matter to people who don't look like me? Because PC culture got everybody jumping through hoops to make sure everybody, feels like they cloaked in an anxiety blanket. Meanwhile, the level of stoicism that I'm supposed to possess on a day-to-day basis, is akin to a fucking tree. Yeah, like real talk. Go to any, if you have a chance, or if you know of any film production that's in or around your town, just go try to be a fly on the wall and just go look and see who makes up the demographic of the crew. And if you do see a melanated dude on there who looks like he may be heterosexual, I guarantee you he walking around like a fucking drone. He ain't trying to upset nobody. He ain't trying to talk to nobody he ain't supposed to. He ain't trying to look at nobody longer than he's supposed to. He is trying to do his job to the best of his ability while being invisible. That's what it's like in Hollywood for melanated men. Heterosexual melanated men. Homosexual melanated men, nah. Don't put us in the same plight. Treat it way differently. They treat it like women. They're allowed to say shit, do shit I can't get away with. I done heard some of the most disgusting things from homosexual men on set. Now, what do you think would happen if I were to go to a higher up and say, yo, this dude just was talking about doing such and such and such and such? You think something gonna happen? No. That's just him being him. I had white ladies at work joke to me about being shot by the police while out at work. Oh yeah, you can't do that. You'll get shot by the cops. Lady who said this is part of this LMGI organization. And I brought this up to these people. First day at work, told me while I'm standing in the lunch line, oh, I knew this was the reason why you came to this job, for the food. I told all these people this. You know what good old Miguel said? Well, you let me know if it's going to be an issue for you when she is participating in conversations. I'm like, yeah, motherfucker, it's an issue. I'm raising the issue now. Like, why is she participating in diversity conversations when she's a fucking racist? Glaze over. Don't matter. When do we actually matter? When does my experience become a cause for people to get behind and champion? And when I say my and me, I'm talking about collectively, okay? Talking about who it is that I represent on set. Because I guarantee you, when I'm on set, they don't see me, Rumbling Thunder. They see this. Unapologetically, people come up to me on set. How did you get this job? Nigga, what? like with utter confusion on their face. I would get the same response. I got my degree and submitted my resume. Man, it's funny, but it's not funny, yo. I mean, it's only funny to me, just because, like Q-Tip said, gotta laugh to keep from crying, right? Figuratively. Now, crying looks like rage tears at your front door. So, like I said, I just want to give the general public an opportunity to be outraged, especially since they're having their award show tomorrow. And I guarantee good old Miguel's going to get an award. Call me psychic. They got $5 Indians. Like, it's bad. And, like, that's why I'm really, like, I'm not coming on here just to, kick this organization in the ass, but the film industry as a whole, and just to kind of unveil how this one faction is a representation of the industry as a whole. And that's why you don't see positive representation of melanated men on the screen in the form of TV or movies. And if you do, there's always some weird ass stigma attached to it. Like I like to give Randall Pearson from This Is Us as the quintessential example. And also one of my favorite TV characters, Black Lightning. I worked on that TV show too. Both of these characters, to me, are easily the most well-adjusted, melanated men out of any character on television that's ever been created. You know why? Both of them were raised by white men on TV. Like, they wrote that way. You understand that? Like, that's not an accident. All this Lil Nas X shit, like, it's not an accident. It wasn't an accident that he started off singing to little kids. And then later, he's sliding down poles onto you know what, on you know who. I ain't seen it. Like, I just heard people talk about it. I'm not gonna watch it because I don't need to see it. Like, I already know what it's about, where it comes from, and why it is. And the majority of the reason why it is because the general public won't be outraged at things that are unpopular. They're only going to be outraged at the things that they are told to be outraged. And the people who are telling them to be outraged are usually celebrities, paid actors. Oh. Like, it's fucking ridiculous, yo. So anyway, 25 to lifestyle, sentence to thrive. It's much needed. The 25 aspect was derived from, the Kanye line and the statistics of black men being dead or in jail by the age of 25. And I wanted to give a chance to the brothers who have defied that stigma and not only made it past the age of 25, but who are out here living life on their own terms as the successful beings that they see themselves as. Because at the end of the day, success is not monetary. It's here. But if you don't have no heart, it's easy for money to, fill that hole, I guess, seemingly. So, like I said, I'm new to this content creation game, but I'm not new to talking shit. I'm pretty good at that. So, bear with me and comment, critique, share, like, do all that. And tell Dame Dash I'm about to holler at him. Sayonara.